Hello, and welcome to the channel. My name is Rinalen, and today we're going to talk about something I've been looking forward to for quite a while now. A new Aion server called Aion Riftshade. With the launch of the server getting closer, I figured, why not talk about it? I've been playing Aion for a very long time. Like, a very long time. Played on quite a few different servers through different patches from all the way back from Retail 2.0 all the way up to Classic. Taken breaks from the game, come back to it. Somehow I always end up playing Aion again. So, when Riftshade came along, the idea of starting fresh on a new server immediately caught my attention. And I've been following its development for quite a while now, wanting to see where it's going to go, and of course, when we're actually going to be able to play it. And I thought it would be fun to talk a little bit about why I'm looking forward to this particular server, what I think about the version of Aion is going to be running, and what I'm hoping to do once it finally launches. There is also another reason I'm making this video. I've had this YouTube channel for a very long time. I've uploaded gaming videos before, I've streamed, I've done various things over the years, but I never really took content creation seriously. And I think this new start with Riftshade might be the thing that finally gives me the reason to start doing that again. So while we wait for the server to finally open its doors, let's talk about why I'm looking forward to playing on the server. I guess before we can talk about the server itself, I should probably explain why Aion still has such a strong hold on me after all these years. I started playing this game back in 2011. Still pretty young at the time, and I honestly had no idea that I was starting a game that I would still be playing 15 years later. Obviously, taking the breaks over the years. Played other games, tried other MMOs, gone through periods when I didn't touch Aion for months or even longer. But somehow, I always end up coming back to it. And I think part of the reason is that Aion has always had a very specific feeling to it. The classes, combat, the world, dungeons, PvP. There's just something about this game that I haven't really found anywhere else in quite the same way. So, as I've mentioned before, I've played to quite different versions of the game over the years. From retail to private servers to classic. Some of them I enjoyed more than the others, obviously. If I had to pick some of my favorite eras of Aion, I'd probably say patch 2.7, 5.8, and 6.5. As far as I know, Riftshade will run on patch 4.8. Kind of a middle ground between old school and new school. Thing is, 4.8 isn't necessarily my absolute favorite patch in the entire history of the game, but that doesn't mean that I will not enjoy it. Still has a lot of the things that make Aion feel like Aion to me. And there's a lot of content in that version of the game that I'm looking forward to experiencing again. And after playing a game for this long, I've tried all the different classes at one point or another. Played almost every class, some more extensively than others, and I've spent quite a good amount of time on a few of them. But eventually, I always end up coming back to Templar, class that I main. At this point, I've played Templar for 13 years. Yeah, 13 years. Which is kind of ridiculous when I actually stop and think about it. I've played other classes as well, as I've mentioned before. Spent quite a bit of time on Gladiator, especially when I played on Classic. But Templar has always been my main. So whenever I start playing on a new server, the question of what class I'm going to play is usually not a difficult one. I think one of the things that I'm most excited about with Riftshade is simply the fact that it's going to be a fresh server. And I know, that's probably not exactly a groundbreaking reason to be excited about a new server. But I really do enjoy that part of Aion, since everyone starts the server's journey at the same time. Now, I know we're not going to be starting completely from nothing. There's going to be a starter set that will help you get through the early leveling process, which is honestly probably a good thing. Don't think anyone is going to complain about making the beginning of the game a little smoother. But even with that, the important thing is that nobody is starting with years of accumulated gear, materials, and resources. The economy hasn't already been completely figured out. Nobody has a warehouse full of every item they could possibly need or sell. The server is itself is new, and I like that. And because even if the early leveling process is made a little easier, the progression after that is still belongs to you. You still have to decide what you want to work towards. You still have to build your character. You still have to figure out what you want to do next. And I think that's what I enjoy about a fresh server. Progression from early game to late game feels more, I don't know, real. You are not joining a server where everyone else has been playing for years and you're immediately trying to catch up with people that have a massive head start. You're there from the beginning. You get to see the server develop alongside your own character. And the same thing applies to the economy. The beginning, you don't really know what's going to be valuable yet. Maybe some material that you wouldn't even think twice about suddenly ends up being worth a decent amount of kina because everyone needs it. Or maybe you find some random item while leveling and suddenly you're thinking, oh wait, people actually need this. And eventually, of course, the economy matures. People figure things out, the market gets flooded with items, progression starts becoming more streamlined. But that beginning period is always interesting to me. Because everyone is still figuring out things together, and I think the same thing applies to the community. When a server is already years old, you already have established legions, established players, established rivalries, kind of know who everyone is. But with a fresh new server, nobody knows what's going to happen yet. You don't know which legions are going to become the big ones, you don't know who is going to end up being a top player, you don't know which rivalries are going to develop or which people you're going to meet early on and still be playing with months later. And I think that's probably one of my favorite things about starting fresh. The entire server is developing around you, people are reveling together, legions are being created, players are finding their groups, and eventually all of that becomes the history of the server. And when you join a server years after it launches, you can still enjoy the game, obviously. But you kind of missed all of that early game stuff. With Riftshade, we get to be there from the beginning. And I think that's what makes a fresh server exciting to me. And then, of course, there's the actual version of Aion that Riftshade is going to be running. Patch 4.8. I think it's actually a really interesting point in Aion's history. There's quite a lot of content available by this point. You've got the newer areas, Anshar Insignia. You've got the older content that still exists. And you've got a pretty wide variety of things to do. Most people were unfair with the game when this patch first released, as it vaulted a lot of content that players enjoyed. Half of the Bellaria maps got new. Sarpan and Tiamaranta, Catalam and Denaria, you can name it. And yes, I use the NA client names, not the EU ones, because I grew up with these, so please don't get me started on it. But trust me when I say the new maps really bring back the feeling of old Aion. And I think that's one of the things I'm interested in experiencing again. Not necessarily because every single piece of content is going to be my favorite, but because there's a lot there. You can spend time leveling, gearing, PvE, getting into PvP. There's always that feeling of, okay, what do I work towards next? And I think the progression is another big part of why this era is interesting to me. It doesn't feel like you're going to reach the end of the game in a couple of days and suddenly have nothing left to do. There's a process to it. You level, you improve your gear, you work towards better equipment, you start looking at the next thing you want to obtain. And at least for me, that progression is a big part of what keeps an MMO interesting. And then of course there's the PvE and PvP side of the game. I've always liked that Aion gives you both options. You can spend your time doing PvE, improving your character, running instances, chasing gear. And then you can take that character into PvP and immediately discover that having decent or good gear doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're doing, which is always a fun experience, especially when you thought you were actually pretty good I think that's really what comes down to me. 4.8 isn't necessarily my favorite version of Aion, but when I think about what makes Aion feel like Aion to me, a lot of those things are still there. The classes still feel like Aion, well, except Gunslingers and Ethertics, but we'll talk about them later. The world still feels like Aion. The progression still feels like something you have to work towards. PvP still has potential to completely ruin your day, and that's probably a good sign, because if I can spend an evening getting annoyed at someone because they killed me in PvP, then I suppose the game is doing something right. So, what do I actually want to do once Riftshade launches? Well, the answer to this question is pretty obvious. I'm going to create my Templar. I mean, after playing the class for so many years, choosing something else would almost feel strange. Assuming nothing changes between now and the launch, that's what I'll be starting with. And from there, I just want to experience the progression. I want to level the character, start building my gear, slowly work towards whatever the next goal is. I don't want to rush the entire game just to get to the end as quickly as possible. There will be goals I want to reach, and there will be gear I want to get, but I also want to actually enjoy the process of getting there. Because that's the part of a new server that you only really get once. The first days, the first weeks, when everybody's still leveling, gearing, figuring things out, looking for groups and trying to improve their characters. I want to be part of that. PvE is obviously going to be a big part of my progression as well. I enjoy the process of getting stronger and then taking that character into harder content. And eventually, I want to see how far I can push my character. Not necessarily going into Riftshade with some grand plan to become the best Templar on the server or anything like that. Although, if I ever end up there, I'm not going to complain. But mostly I just want to play the game and see where this will take me. And then there's PvP. I think PvP is one of those things that makes the progression feel more meaningful than ever. You spend all this time building your character, getting gear, learning your class. Then eventually you get to test all of that against another player. Sometimes it works, sometimes you get absolutely destroyed. And then you sit there wondering why you ever thought you were good at the game in the first place. But, you know, that's part of the fun. This is probably a good point to talk about why I'm making this video in the first place. Because I could just play Riftshade when it launches. Don't necessarily have to talk about it, but I kinda want to. I've had this YouTube channel for a very long time now. I think for almost as long as I've been playing Aion. And I've uploaded gaming content before. Not consistently. There have been periods where I uploaded more often, periods where I didn't upload anything at all, and plenty of times where I thought, yeah, maybe I should start making videos again. And then I didn't. So, this isn't exactly my first time thinking about making gaming content. I've always enjoyed the idea of it. I think part of that comes from watching other creators over the years. People like My Name is Bife and John Law have been a big inspiration to me in different ways. Not necessarily because I want to make the exact kind of content as they do, but because I like the idea of creating something that people actually want to sit down and watch. Something that has a bit of personality to it. And with Riftshade, I think I finally have something I can actually want to document. The journey, the whole journey, the early days of the server, the leveling, the gearing, the PvE progression, PvP, the good moments, the frustrating moments. Probably quite a few frustrating moments, to be honest. And hopefully the things that happen along the way that I couldn't have planned for. I also want to make more than just one type of video. I want to make guides when I have something useful to share. PvP montages when I have footage that is actually worth putting together. Dungeon and PvE content. Progression videos. And maybe just videos where I'm playing the game and hanging out with my Legion mates. I don't want everything to feel like it has some huge production. Sometimes I might have something specific I want to talk about. Sometimes it might be just a video about what I've been doing in the game. And honestly, I think that's what I'm most interested in. Having a reason to make videos again. I've had this channel sitting around for years. I've made content before, but I've never really stuck with it in the way I wanted to. And maybe Riftshade is finally the thing that gives me a reason to change that. Maybe. We'll see. But either way, I want to give it a proper try this time. And if I'm going to play Riftshade anyway, I might as well bring people along for the journey. And actually, if you made it far into this video, thank you. This is the first time in a long time that I've really put some effort into making something for YouTube. I've had this channel for years, but I haven't really taken content creation seriously in a very long time. So I'm honestly kind of curious to where this goes. And if you're here at the beginning of this journey, well, I appreciate you being here. This is where I want to be honest about what I actually expect from all of this. Don't really know what I want this channel to become, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I just don't want to sit here and promise that I'm going to build some massive content empire around Aion. I have no idea how big the channel is going to become. Maybe a lot of people will find it, maybe not many people will. Maybe someone watching this video will discover the channel at the very beginning of the Riftshade journey and stick around for a long time. Or maybe this video will be just something for a few people to watch before the server launches. And maybe that's it. I honestly don't know, and I'm okay with that. I think at the end of the day I just want to make things around a game that I'm genuinely passionate about. I've been playing Aion for basically half my lifetime. I've spent a ridiculous amount of time in this game. I've made friends through it. I've had some really great memories. I've taken breaks from it, gotten frustrated with it, and somehow I always end up coming back. So, if I'm going to be playing it again anyway, I might as well create something around it. Maybe guide, maybe PvP montage, maybe progression video. Maybe it's just me playing the game and talking about something completely unrelated while I'm fighting a boss in the background. I don't know. And I honestly think that's kind of exciting, because I don't want every single thing to be planned out before I even start. Because I know where I'm starting. I'm going to start Riftshade with a Templar, just like I have on so many servers before. I'm going to level, I'm going to gear, I'm going to play with my friends, going to make mistakes, and I'm probably going to get killed in PvP more than once. And somewhere along the way, I hopefully make some videos about it. But maybe people will discover this channel at the beginning. Maybe they'll find it months later. Who knows? But I think that's okay. I don't need this to become something massive for it to be worth doing. I just want to make things around the game that I genuinely care about. And if some people enjoy watching that along the way, that's pretty cool too. So, I guess that's about it for now. Riftshade isn't live yet, so there's only so much more I can say about it. At some point, all of this talking about the server is going to turn into actually playing on it. And I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to creating my character, leaving the starting area, and just seeing what happens from there. And if you're planning on playing on Riftshade as well, then maybe I'll see you there. Maybe we'll end up in the same group. Maybe we'll end up on opposite sides of a PvP fight. Or maybe you'll just follow along here and see how the journey develops. Either way, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to stick around. I have a feeling there will be a lot of more Aion to come. I'll see you in the next one.